Rudy Gonzalez. And again, we have a very special guest here today, Megan Pryor, and I'll introduce her later, but she's an apprenticeship coordinator of the Operating Engineers Local 3. Megan, thank you. She's our real VIP today, but I'm sure my colleagues will agree. But I'm very honored that we have so many of the people who made this legislation possible here with us today. Congresswoman Anna Eshoo from San Mateo, well, more than San Mateo County. Congresswoman Jackie Spear, whom I have the honor of representing San Francisco with. Congresswoman Barbara Lee, right from across the ridge. And Congressman Mark DeSaulnier, who is on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. So he was really very much there in the shaping of all of this. This is about good paying jobs for America's working families. It's about clean air, clean water for our children. It's about quality of life improvement for families so they don't have to spend so much time on the road because of the investments in mass transit, the investments in roads and bridges to make them safer and to facilitate transportation, for moving people from home to work to school, for moving product to market in a much more efficient way, especially in our agriculture community, which is so important in California. The list goes on and on. And it really has some good things about saving the planet. We do much more in our the bill we just passed the other day in the reconciliation. But this is a running start on not only our hopes riding on what's in the bill and mass transit and the rest, but also the running start it is to protect the planet. It's a tribute to President Biden. It was his vision. He came in with this big vision and he accomplished this much, over $1 trillion, working in a bipartisan fashion. But he did say, I will not confine my vision for America to this one bill, and hence we have the legislation that he signed last Monday, but also the reconciliation bill, the Build Back Better. Now, what's exciting about that, and I'll make this point before I yield to Congresswoman Eshoo, and that is that in that legislation, we build back better because it's about equity. Both of these bills are about fairness and equity and justice in how we build our infrastructure in our country. No longer will we be separating neighborhoods, but unifying them. No longer will women and people of color be cut out of what happens next because the legislation facilitates all of that. So it's building back better because it's building back in a more unifying way, a more just way, and again, honoring the vision of President Biden. He deserves so much credit for both of these legislations, on top of the rescue package that we passed earlier in the year. All of it about good paying jobs, good paying union jobs. Yeah. All about lowering costs for the consumer, all about increasing, as again, paychecks, all about lowering taxes for the middle class, and all of it paid for by making everyone pay his or her fair share. So it's pretty exciting. This is our first, we're back. We've tasked everyone to go out and tell everyone what is in this legislation. It's not just about what I talked about. It's about the safety of our bridges. It's about an investment in our airports. The list goes on and on. We can talk more about as we proceed with this. But again, I'm very honored to be here with my colleagues because the courage of the House Democrats really made this possible. The Senate did their work, but we had to sell it in the House as we were selling the other bill. None of this would be possible without that unity. And central to all of that, on one of the committees of jurisdiction for all of this, on the Energy and Commerce Committee, Congresswoman Anna Eshoo.
Now, House Democrats have vowed to vote on Friday on an expansive domestic policy package that would overhaul large swaths of the American economy. That's after Kevin McCarthy derailed a vote planned earlier. And the final passage of the measure was ultimately delayed by McCarthy, who used his leadership privileges to rail furiously against the legislation. The administration and the Democrats in an overnight speech that lasted an extraordinary 8.5 hours. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer announced that they would return on Friday to vote on the bill known as the Build Back Better. If it passes the House, the measure would next go to the Senate, where additional hurdles await in the evenly divided chamber. An analysis found that the bill would spend around $1.7 trillion over 10 years. That's increasing the deficit by around $367 billion over the same span of time. The score did not include estimates of Democrats' plan to raise revenue by increasing the enforcement of federal tax laws. Now, the Budget Office separately predicted that boosting funding for the IRS by $80 billion would raise around $207 billion in revenue. This is shrinking the deficit to $160 billion over 10 years. The estimate was far less than the $400 billion that the White House said would be raised by tougher IRS enforcement. With the analysis complete, Janet Yellen said in a statement that the Build Back Better is fully paid for. It would ultimately reduce the country's debt by enacting reforms that ask the wealthiest Americans and large corporations to pay their fair share. The budget score appeared to be enough to placate word centrists, at least for now. The Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy and the co-chair, said she would vote for the bill despite reservations about the overall size of the legislation. The package is ambitious and it aims to dramatically reduce childcare costs and provide universal pre-kindergarten for children. Now, Pelosi had twice attempted to bring the spending bill to the floor for a vote, only to see those plans unravel amid a standoff between progressives and moderates. But food security advocates breathed a sigh of relief earlier this year when a historic adjustment for the USDA boosted payments dispersed to low-income Americans who participate in the SNAP programs. People who work towards hunger prevention say that safeguards like the SNAP benefits and expanded unemployment insurance, direct payments to millions, and the child tax credit increases help shield millions of families. And many of the people who receive SNAP benefits are in the workforce, but they still don't earn enough money to buy healthy food. SNAP benefits are adjusted for inflation annually, but the cost of many groceries, especially protein and produce, have definitely increased. What are your thoughts on this, everybody? Tell me in the comments down below. And do you believe that President Biden is doing a good job in helping out the American people? I want to know your thoughts on this.
Do a long-term PR advice funding will stay the same in a continuing resolution, and it's obviously going to be much more needed this year?
That's not figured in any of this component. What we're focusing on is now the cost of energy that people are getting hit with all across the country. Yeah, we need to fund the government. The deadline there is December 3rd. This is a focus on the fact that this administration is intentionally shutting down American energy, making energy more expensive to help drive a need for renewables. This is a manipulation of the economy and causing pain for the American people as a result.